Hello, also known as Adam's Rib, and you are listening to Fridays Live at Noon. So, I have rather heartbreaking news to deliver. Um, Actress Mary Alice has passed away. Um, where she is 82, I'll have more details tonight at tonight's live broadcast. But my earliest memories now, I was talking to my mother about this yesterday because I happened to, see one of the notifications pop up. And so she was 82 when she passed, when she transitioned, because we know that leaving this life is not the end. Leaving this life is another beginning. We believe that once you leave this life, you transition into your eternity. Prayerfully, she left here right with God so that she may be in the presence of the Lord. She is no longer in our presence. She is now absent from the shell that we utilize as we navigate this earth, and she is now in the presence of God. And so because that's what's going on with her, those of us who know Christ in the land of the living will get to see Miss Alice again. If you are following anybody close to her in trying to get my computer set up here. If you follow her on social media or follow any of her loved ones, please do what you can to show them some love and let them know what her gift has been to you. So I thought it was interesting that this was courtesy of Ricky Smiley, that she was given props for being an alum of a different world. But Miss Alice's career spans, I would say, probably all the way back to the 60s. My mother remembered her as playing the mother on the original Sparkle movie. She played Irene Cara, and she played Sister and the Sister's mother. I remember her. When I got to see Sparkle, I was like, okay, yeah, that's her. She's been in a lot of stuff. I remember her. Now, that was my mother's earliest remembrance of her. But I also remember her as playing, if you've been watching any of the old Sanford and Sons that have been on YouTube lately, she played Fred Sanford's younger sister that got married to the white guy. So that was her as well. She stayed nice looking a real long time. I mean, she kept it together. I remember her all over the 70s in different things. She was another Black actress that made me feel good about being Black and being female. So let me see here. She was another person who made me feel good about being Black and being a woman. Okay, and I say that because during that time period, women, period, were making a lot of inroads and achieving a lot of things. So there was a lot of first goings on for us. At first, first as far as women and first as far as Black people. Michael Henderson, those of you who are 70s R&B fans know that Michael Henderson made a lot of moves in the 70s and in the 80s. So tonight There will be an Eclectic Music Geek podcast tonight. Tonight, this one is Beyonce inspired. So many of you know that Beyonce's Renaissance album dropped today. Well, actually dropped overnight. And so tonight's show, I will be doing a dedication to Beyonce. Her, to the new album, because it's a new drop, but also to her career span. I will be playing some Destiny's Child if I can fit it in there. We will be taking some trips into the Wayback Machine. Tonight was going to be another cookout music one. Since July seemed to be, I was in that cookout vein, so I was going to keep it cookout and make an announcement about next month. So next month, for those of you who are true MJ fans, you know that Michael Jackson's birthday will be August 29th, I believe. So I will be doing some dedications to him throughout the month. I may celebrate him the whole month. I'm undecided on that, simply because there are other stuff I want to get into and touch on this month. If I do decide to do him, I always tend to want to do a little bit of a different spin on the artists that I do. So I don't always just dedicate the entire month to one artist. I may dedicate it to a whole movement, like I did with Teddy Riley, with New Jack, like I did with Prince, with the Minneapolis Sound. I'm thinking, and it is coming to me, that I may do an entire month dedicated not just to MJ, but to MJ and many of his musical proteges. Because what people don't realize, that when you are looking at a lot of newer artists, especially those that are triple threats, that you are looking at many, MJ had many proteges. MJ had imitators even in the comedy world. There were comedians that made, in their early days of their career, that made entire personas based on their ability to imitate his moves, dance-wise. So I may dedicate August to being MJ month, just like I thought about doing. The only reason Prince doesn't get all of June is because my son is in June as well. So, I celebrate my first inroad into motherhood. June typically celebrates the anniversary of me being a mommy. My oldest child has a birthday in June, but that still can, happen. I can still do that. Those are two major artists. But I am thinking about doing an entire month dedicated to MJ. And plus the fact that not only dedicated to the Jackson 5, which, was the boy band that he was a part of, but also to his proteges. He's had a lot of them. So it's just something to think about. But tonight's live broadcast will be dedicated to Beyonce's new album, Renaissance, which I feel really, really good about, because I did a show where I talked about, is blaxploitation really blaxploitation, or is it more Black Renaissance? And I say that because blaxploitation is a combination of the two words black and exploitation. And at the time, I explained why they called it blaxploitation, the person who coined the term. But when I look at many of the movies that were made at that time, and they weren't just, movies that had a black face, They were movies that were made and written by Black directors and writers and people behind the scenes, and they really gave us a chance to tell our stories. They had a chance to have Black male leads and Black female leads. There was a time where we were being showed us seeing each other as romantic and suitable partners on screen. Unlike a lot of what you're hearing right now with people's platforms, by the time you get done listening to some of these platforms, you would think that black men and women don't see each other as suitable partners at all. And that makes me a little bit sad because, you know, as I get older, you start thinking about how the next generation is going to continue and going to carry on at least the positive legacies of who they are. And when I hear people talk about divesting from the Black community, one of the things I thought about, and I remember talking about Rosewood. If you ever get a chance to see John Singleton's Rosewood, please see it. Which reminds me, there's an upcoming movie coming, I think around October, called Till. And it looks like it's going to be the actual Emmett Till story is going to be on screen. The previews look pretty good, which the job of the previews is to get you to go to the movie. But it looks like it's going to be good. I hope whatever directorial or creative license they take, that they don't deviate from the story. So as you know, if you don't know, you can Google Emmett Till. Emmett Till was a young boy, I think only about 13 or 14, that got persuaded his mother to let him to go to the South to visit his cousins. And while he was down there, they took a trip to a convenience store, and a grown married white woman, alleged that he took liberties with her and said some inappropriate stuff to her. So at that time in the South, they had a lot of social codes. Another good book to read about our history with that is Roll of Thunder, Hear My Cry, about the Logan family. And there's, I think it was Mildred Taylor, had several books about the Logan family, but that was the most famous one. And they made a movie out of that one. And in the book, the young lady, Cassie, says something, says something smart to her white classmate. And the white classmate's father twisted her arm and threw her off the sidewalk and forced her to apologize to his daughter. So when people talk about how the old South was when it came to Black men and Black women, and this is one of the things that I need to admonish Black men to stop doing, and that is hogging the narrative. Black women suffered in ways that you will never, ever understand. And we are still suffering. Okay? Our sexual, not only were you guys lynched, but our sexual autonomy was stolen from us. Okay? The inability, and you have white men now who still think that they have a right to come at you crazy and want to act crazy if you decide you don't want to be bothered with them. Okay? So Black women and men have suffered a lot of indignities when it comes to the whole issue of racism in this country. And I need Black men to stop only acknowledging yourselves. We have been right there with you throughout every single one of these studies. Every single one of these struggles. So, and it really, that's why I said, Adams Rib Media Ministries, none of my podcasts I do not follow any Black men who publicly lambast Black women. I don't follow anybody's platform that publicly lambasts or builds their platform off of degrading black women, saying mean things of black women, or telling other men not to date black women or marry black women. You won't get no follows from me. Now, if your platform is something else, and I do have quite a few black males that I do follow on YouTube. One is a cooking one. I think another one is with Young Turks. He's news. So, but if you build your, that's why I never followed Kevin Samuels. If you build your platform off of degrading and humiliating your own women, I'm not fucking with you. And it will stay that way. So these ones, what's their name, Freaking Geek or whatever their names is, that say they don't night ride. The only time I hear about them is when something makes viral and somebody who I already follow talks about them. Other than that, I don't fool with them. I don't know what their name is, Freaking Geek and whatever. You know, they don't get no follow from me. Tommy Sotomayor never got no follows from me. I don't play it. So the divestors I listen to some of them, and you know, it may sound like a double standard, but there's some of the few black women that I feel like have a how can I say it, objective opinion when it comes to what black women suffer in the black community. But however, I don't agree with them either, and they can't just be, you know, oh, black men are bad or blah, 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 blah. They have to be a person that has the ability to be objective about white men as well. Okay, you can't sit over here and, like, I have a problem with anybody who thinks that dating white is an upgrade. Okay, I don't view white people as an upgrade because I have seen too much of the negative side of any people. I wouldn't think that dating, you got some black men who think that, oh, dating Latin. Well, first of all, I'm like, all Latins don't get along. Okay. I used to work in this call center, and I was on the row where the Spanish-speaking agents were, and I saw one of them getting into it with another customer, and then I realized, wait a minute, he's speaking in his own tongue, so he fussing with one of his own people. So, you know, people of all colors fall out within, you know, that ethnicity. Okay, most of the crime that is committed within same ethnicity, because people tend to commit crimes based on proximity. The highest amount of sex crimes are within the ethnicity of within the same ethnicity. So most women have more to worry about from the men that are their color than any other man on this earth, because 90% of sex crimes are committed within that same race. So when I hear politicians push the narrative of the Mexican rapist, who at one point was the black rapist, and when you look and see most rapists that you see getting accused of anything, they're typically white. So you have to watch when people try to emotionalize you when they're running for office, and the people who run for office using white fear as a platform. You know, it can be a way. You have to do due diligently and be able to research some of these candidates and their background. And it takes a lot of time to be able to do that. So tonight I will be celebrating Beyonce's new album drop. Her album Renaissance dropped. Well, she had the You Can't Break My Soul was our appetizer, and that's been out a couple of weeks, and so now the whole album is dropped. And so I've been honored in my YouTube stream, since I do follow her account, to sample a few of the songs on it, and it sounds like a banger. Somebody compared it to Off the Wall, and I was like, I could kind of see that, and I'll tell you why. because if you have ever listened to Michael Jackson's Off the Wall, oh my God. I mean, Off the Wall was one of those albums that got played. You could run a party off of Off the Wall all by itself and keep people on the floor. Keep people on the floor, both slow and fast jams. I mean, it was one of those albums. And I see this album possibly, it like set a standard, and then after that was Thriller. But before Thriller, Off the Wall was one of those albums that you could, like I said, you could play nothing and it would keep that. You could play that whole album. You could run a party off of that whole album, and you would have people would be on the floor for both the fast and the slow songs. So it's a really good album. If you get a chance to listen to it, and you'll see why he is the king of pop. So I will be celebrating Miss B. I know that there is some Kellis. I follow both of her and Kellis. So Kellis has, said some things, and Kellis, to me, after you get to be a certain age, especially women, I know that there is some stuff now between her. There's no stuff between her and Beyonce. What happened is Kellis went live and expressed her opinions on artists using other artists, musical content without asking first. You know what I'm saying? Without doing the courtesy to reach out and ask if they mind them sampling their stuff. Okay. And, I can understand that if I had intellectual property out here, musical intellectual property, I think I would want somebody to reach out and discuss it with me before just looking up and seeing my stuff is on there. For many songwriters and book writers, which I hope to join their ranks pretty soon. I'm a blogger, and I'll say this: when you create content, your content is your baby. People don't know the hours of research and different other stuff that you may have put into creating that content. Writing a nonfiction book. I have one nonfiction book out right now. And even though it is, not a whole lot of pages and it's mostly evangelistic, it still took a lot of researching the Bible, researching different other sources, having to cite sources. It's just a lot that you go into, and the last thing you want is for somebody to appropriate you. If that makes any sense at all. I'm hoping that the Beehive will not come for her, okay? Because the Beehive, which is Beyonce's fan base, has a reputation for liking to go after anybody that they feel like is disrespecting Queen Bee. Let me say this. After a certain age, the age thing that I was going to go into on Kellis. Well, Kellis also lost a husband, so please be with her. At this time, he's been gone now for maybe about a year, I think. But I think over a certain age, you get sick and tired. Women are conditioned by society to be nice. And many times after a while, nice doesn't get you anywhere. Especially in your business dealings and especially in your career dealings, because so many people condition you to be nice and then they exploit you or take advantage of you. And after a while, especially after you get so old and have had to be business savvy and have had to fiercely protect yourself and your creations, after a while you get sick and tired of nice, because people act like they don't understand nice. People will many times treat you like the only language they understand is bitch. And it's a sad thing in this world, because usually what creates a bitch is the very thing, like the very people who try to condition you to be nice turn right around and try to walk all over you. And so you wind up being bitch. We were looking at one of the Prince tributes, and I was telling somebody, you know, they saw Wendy from the Revolution playing. Now, what a lot of people don't realize with Wendy and Lisa is that they are very phenomenal musicians. And so I told somebody, I said, yeah, that's Wendy from Purple Rain. That's the one that seemed to give Prince all the trouble in the movie. Okay. And so I always liked the character Wendy, because every so often you need to kind of be that person that, you know, I'm loyal to you. I would never do anything in the world to hurt you, but I have my own career to watch out for too. I have my own goals to protect. And I think there needs to be a little bit of Wendy in women. Okay, I really do. Because many times, if you're not careful, males will walk all over you. They could be the best. They could be the most gifted person in the world. They could be the most wonderful person in the world. But if you don't watch out for your own bottom line, and I'm not saying, you know, be a shrew, but unfortunately, you almost have to have a little bit of shrew before men will take you seriously. Because many men are conditioned to play women down. You know, you have to be able to watch out for yourself. I commented on somebody's stuff recently, and I said, you deserve so much better than what you're getting in this situation. Okay, you deserve better than to be called a peasant. You deserve better than what you are getting out of this situation. You deserve better than to be someone's side piece. I always think that to me, the whole concept of side pieces is something that very, 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 very incredibly selfish, egotistical, narcissistic males made up. Okay? That's something that men made up so they would be able to justify sleeping with you and sleeping with someone else. I was looking at one of the influencers that I follow on YouTube, and she was talking about, I guess somebody made a song, a new song. I'm like, I can remember when songs, like if a guy didn't have the right words, he could put on the right song and it could convey his sentiments exactly and win you over and make you fall in love. Some of this new stuff, it's like they are just pornographic anymore. Like nobody wants to make you fall in love and make babies anymore. All of them want to sell you some line. So I guess the song was saying, don't let some outside bee ruin what we have together, because just because, and I'm like, men can tell you, I said, men can make up more nonsense to try to make you put up with a whole bunch of goofiness that you don't want to put up with. You deserve better. If it's a negative, and I'm talking, when I say you deserve better, I'm not talking about a tiara on your head and the most expensive jewels and different other stuff, because there's women who are getting all that stuff and are still getting the shaft when it comes to their romantic relationships. It's not about the material. What I'm saying is you deserve better than to be lied to. You deserve better than to be cheated on. You deserve better than to be played against other women. You deserve better than to have somebody tell you that God wants y'all to have sex. Okay, yeah, I can't even believe that one still works. But then again, when I look at some of these cults that are also impregnating little 12, 13, 14-year-old girls, I can see where some of that is working, because they're preying on people who are incredibly young. Okay, and the very people that they don't have legal consent to even be fooling with in the first place. But you just have to watch. That's why I'm saying here, I've been getting so much information crowding my stream about the fundamentalist Latter-day Saints, which is one of the worst offenders. This is why I'm saying, before you as a black person join some pro-life agenda, you need to know who the people that you are endorsing, what are their core spiritual beliefs. Okay, what are their core beliefs? What are their core beliefs about women? Because if their attitude toward women is pretty much, if they're teaching that it's okay to rape your wife, don't line up with them. If their beliefs are white supremacist in nature, be careful who you align yourself with. Because pro-life does not necessarily mean pro-black. Okay, pro-life can actually mean we don't give a crap about you at all, but we will cater to you and pander to you if we can get your votes to back up our agenda. A good person to listen to about this whole pro-life thing is Jane Elliott. If most of you who have heard Jane Elliott, she's the white lady who has done the blue-eyed and brown-eyed test about racism. And she almost gave a prophetic word where she said some of this pro-life stuff is going on because there is a shortage of white babies. Now, I already said last week, what does that have to do with us as black people? Girl, all they have to do is impregnate you with one child. Okay, and keep that child and never allow them to mate with any other black children. With what I mean, with any other black people, and keep that line only mating with white people, and in a generation or two, you will have a white person with maybe a little bit of drop of black blood. Now, that sounds like a conspiracy theory, and on some level, it kind of is. But let me say this. I, as a black person living in the United States with their history of racism and really, really terrible acts against people of color, can never afford to be naive when it comes to different things that people are trying with us. We have never been allowed to be naive. We have never been allowed to be childlike when it comes to the political schemes of others. Okay? One of the reasons why you could hardly get any of us to get the COVID vaccine was because of Tuskegee. So when I tell you, stay away from, don't divest from the black community. When I asked the question, I remember asking it a while back, and I'll ask it again. Because I just recently saw in the neighborhood that I live in, they closed a Kroger. That Kroger had been there for years. Decades even, I would say. And now it's completely boarded up. I mean, it's boarded up, it's closed. Now, I think about the story of Rosewood, and I think about how it was a thriving community, and mostly black. If any of these stores, these major, pretty much white-ran stores, were to divest from our neighborhoods and leave our neighborhoods, would we be able to thrive? Would we be able to build enough of our own resources? Because think about the fact that some of these places redline us and look for reasons not to build stores in our neighborhoods. A Family Dollar around the corner from me is now doing only deliveries. You can't go inside the store and buy anything. Do you think that we have it in the communities that are largely Black? Do you think that we have the wherewithal that if any of these major retailers pulled out of our neighborhoods for good, that we would be able to build our community and survive? Because when it's not going into our areas, I don't think about the people who have cars, because if you have a car, you can easily go like maybe 20, 30, 40 miles away to buy whatever you need to buy. You can also order it. They have apps now where you can order stuff and have it delivered, depending on how many miles away you are from the nearest one of their locations. But you can easily go. And I think the problematic thing is when you think about communities and you only think about people who have cars. No one ever thinks about the people who may be without a car. No one thinks about the elderly. No one thinks about the disabled, the people who may not have the ability to drive to the next neighborhood or two over in order to get groceries, or even just to get stuff, just to get, expendables or whatever. Like, no one thinks in those terms. I think in those terms. Because one of the biggest complaints is, carry-outs, and how, and let me say, carry-outs can be very overpriced. They got some pretty high prices. You don't want to ever have to grocery shop in a carry-out or be reliant on them. Like I said before, I see some of the stuff that's going on. Do we have it to where if any of these major retailers pulled out of some of our neighborhoods, that we would still be able to have the resources to keep our communities going? I'm not divesting. So this is something to think about when you see these stores being boarded up. Because whether we recognize it or not, there's still a certain amount of redlining that's still going on. And you can say, well, there are other locations. Well, I can say that I have a car. But what about the elderly? Because I thought about this when I was doing DoorDash. So when I was doing DoorDash and doing deliveries, many of the people that I was delivering to were sick and shut in. Many of them were disabled and unable to get around. Many of them were elderly and didn't have cars. And sometimes you can be elderly, and my mother's a senior citizen and drove herself around and still knows how to drive. Like, she's been driving for a long time. But there are senior citizens, I know in many states, like, when it comes to driving, you have to like, they get a little stricter on people who get older because they do start to have vision problems. Okay. So just because somebody's been driving for years, sometimes they get a little stricter on the elderly because, your eyesight may go. These are things to think about. What about the people in your neighborhood that don't drive and don't have it to where, that don't have it to where they can just easily go to? Now there's Uber, there's grocery stores. I mean, I've utilized there's Uber, there's taxis. I have utilized taxis. First of all, I just as soon go with a taxi because Uber keeps getting sued left and right because they keep hiring rapists, which is a horse of another color. But these are things that, like I said, I like to think about. Like, what if we had a situation where they started pulling, because they pull up ranks on us in a heartbeat. Who's going to replace that Kroger? So these are things to think about. But like I said, there will be a live broadcast tonight. It will be dedicated. It's going to be the major part of the broadcast is going to be dedicated to Beyonce's new drop. But I am going to talk a little bit about Michael Henderson, since he was of the music world and was a major player in the R&B world. I am going to talk about him. I am going to give you guys a little more biographical information on Mary Alice, one of our most celebrated actresses. I am going to go into even more newsworthy stuff, because there's stuff going on. If you don't know, send up your prayers for Brittany Griner. She just started her trial this week. They're in talks to try to trade one of Russia's prisoners over here for her and another guy, and possibly a third. I was like, based on the crimes of the Russian that Russia wants back, I think they should trade 3 prisoners for him, because her crimes don't even equal his at all. This guy was notorious and terrible, and a trafficker and all this other stuff, and gun trafficking. He was guilty of some major crimes. So I'm like, considering what he's been in trouble, I think y'all need to give us 3 of our people back compared for this guy. And that's just mine. And I think they're trying to get her, because they're really trying to get them back over here on our soil. Because if she is sentenced over in Russia, she is looking at a 10-year sentence just for a little bit of oil that she was prescribed, by the way. So this was not recreational. This was cannabis oil that she was prescribed by her doctor to have. Now, we also know the issue of, athletes and prescriptions too, but my personal thing is I would prefer to have her on American soil in our courts, because we're not always treated very well when we're overseas. But it also is kind of a warning that if you're going to go out of the country, to research their laws. Okay, know what you can carry over there and what you can't. So keep that lifted up and everything, that goes smoothly enough, like we can get her back over here on American soil and everything. So I'm going to see you guys tonight at midnight. Enjoy your Friday. Enjoy whatever you get into. Do your work. Enjoy the rest of your work day, and be blessed. And I will see you guys later.